Right.
Okay, good evening. Pamela Jean Agaloos, is that the correct pronunciation?
Agaloos is how I'd say it, but then I forgive
Agaloos.
Agaloos. Yeah, Agaloos.
Agaloos.
A
Okay,
glottal
right.
stop. Yeah.
Gotcha. And it's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to get an opportunity to talk to you. Glad you're going to be performing at People's Voice Cafe on October 7th, 2023. We're looking forward to that evening. Should be really, really, really fun. And I've had the pleasure of hearing you perform once before at People's Voice Cafe, but our audience who will be watching this particular interview may not be as familiar with you, or they may be longtime fans of yours for all we know. I know that you're from Queens, right?
Yes.
You live in Queens and you perform in Queens a lot?
I go to a bunch of Irish sessions in the city. I'm a regular in some of the Irish in the city and in Brooklyn as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. So there
Yeah.
may be people out there below, underneath lots of rocks that can overturn and get to come to People's Voice Cafe. That would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice.
So let me start by asking you more than the correct pronunciation of your name. Where were you born? Where were you raised? How did you come to get involved with music?
So my family's Filipino. He was stationed in Chicago. He was waiting in between posts when I was born. So I was born in North Chicago, and then Cold War, we were shipped over to a little island of Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, ADAC, which I recently looked at the map, and it's literally the midpoint between Alaska and Russia.
Does that mean you could see Russia from your house?
Literally. And then before I
Goodness.
turned 5, my dad decided to retire and go back to the Philippines, and that's basically where I grew up. So we spoke English at home, and then I learned Tagalog in the neighborhood, and my parents also spoke a different language, which I eventually absorbed, so to speak. Um, so yeah, that's in terms of my origin. I also want to mention that my family is from a little town in the Philippines called Bangged, Abra, in the mountain province up in the northmost island of the Philippines. And I just love mentioning that.
Can you pronounce that again?
Bangged, Abra. Bangged
Banged,
is the name. Yeah,
Banged
Bangged is the name
Abba.
of the town. Yeah, Bangged is the name of the town. Abra is the name of I guess, the region.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
If you
yeah,
say so. Right.
yeah,
Banged Abba. All right.
yes. Good
Sounds
job.
good.
Yeah,
Sounds very good. Thank you. And well, we musicians, we have ears. We got to, we pick up on
definitely.
stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And do I remember correctly that part of your entry to music was through musical theater?
Yes. Yeah, I did musical theater in high school. I started I was in the high school band, high school orchestra, in my high school, and then I got
What did
sucked
you
into
play?
the viola.
The viola. You're a
Yes.
violist. I
Yes.
don't meet many of those.
No, there's not a lot of us.
My middle brother was a violist.
Oh my gosh.
So I knew one, and then I have one other friend, Pam, who's a violist. But
Oh
you're like
wow.
the third or fourth violist who I've met in my life.
Amazing. Another Pam who's a violist.
Yes,
Amazing.
yes, and she's been to People's Voice Cafe once, so I'm going to make sure she comes to see you.
Cool. I'd love to meet her. That's cool.
So
So
you
yeah,
played viola.
I played viola. My entry point was musical theater, and then I also sang in church a lot. I was our worship leader in our little evangelical church in Metro Manila. And then after college, I got involved in some theater in the same high school that I went to. The Alumni Association decided to like mount and produce musical theater productions because for some reason it stopped after a bunch of us graduated. So we decided to bring that back, and then it became its own. It became its own theater company, and I was with them until I moved back to the U.S., which is here in New York. And I've been here in New York for, oh my God, 12 years now.
Oh, you're a baby.
Yeah, Yeah,
You're definitely a newbie.
yeah,
Only 12 years.
only 12.
And do you work? You have a day job? What do you do?
Yes, I still work in the entertainment industry. I'm head of house management at Symphony Space on 95th and
Really?
Broadway. Yeah,
Ooh, okay. We will
yeah.
not ask you for free tickets. Okay, we will not. We will not do
Not
that.
right now.
I didn't say that. I live on the Upper West Side, so you may be seeing me.
Okay, okay, you'll be darkening our doors. Okay.
Darkening your doors. Yes, I like Symphony Space. Good
Yeah, it's great.
space. Good space.
Yeah, it really is.
So okay, so you have day job. You played viola. Were doing musical theater. By the way, what was your favorite musical of all time?
Oh my gosh. Right now, like Once on This Island.
Once on this island,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. It's like we did
I
it.
know, I'm familiar with it. It's one of
Yeah,
those that
yeah,
lots of high school and college kids do.
yeah. Yeah, I was Asaka, goddess
Was
of the earth.
okay, got it, got it.
Yeah.
So you are a soprano or a first alto? What's your range?
I'm technically a soprano. So I never had a voice teacher up until I was 29. I never had real formal
Mhm.
training. So what had happened was, my friends, my friend directed a mall show of soprano prodigies. Like you're talking about 12, 13-year-old girls singing Queen of the Night. And
Okay,
yeah,
right.
yeah, I know. So my friend was directing the show, and he was like, "Why don't you come out? Because why don't you come out and see us?" Blah blah blah. So I did, and their voice teacher was there, and my best friend was saying you should meet him, and so we were introduced. I'm like, I don't know why you want me to meet this guy. Like, what's the point? So I started a conversation and started talking to myself, and then right at the moment where I wasn't I wasn't making any sense about talking about myself. And so he went, "All right, that's enough." And then he said, "Yeah," he read, "All right, that's enough." Then he said, "Do you know that you're a natural lyric soprano?" And I was like, "What?" You're a natural, you got it. You're a natural, and I want you to sit down and have lessons with me. Only to find out that he's like the source of many an urban legend in musical theater in the Philippines in the 70s. Like he would talk about like starting to have lessons with him. His name is Edgardo Crisol. He was part of the original cast in the Philippines of Jesus Christ Superstar. He played Judas, and He went off he went off, like literally when he played Judas. The direct I don't I'm not I'm pretty sure the director did not intend him to do this, but he made an artistic choice to fall to his death into the orchestra pit. And he was telling
Well,
me the story, and I was like, "Oh, you're that guy?" I
I heard about you.
was like, "That's you?"
And he's the only one who lived to tell the tale because all the
Ex-
people who copied him died.
Apparently. So yeah. And then I'm gonna just continue my journey with him. I hadn't told him that I had intended to move to New York. And he was like, "Oh, you are? So let's get together a recital. Let's get together, let's put a concert together." And then he couldn't make it because he was sick. And then and I was kind of feeling anxious. I mean, like leaving and making a life choice to move to New York and then having a recital before that kind of like adds to the anxiety of this life change. So I got the recital over and done with. A lot of people came. Like I was seen for who I am. And then a few days, not even a week before I was gonna before my flight to New York, I got a phone call that my voice teacher had died.
Oh,
And I was his last student to ever have a recital or a concert. And so I felt like, okay, I guess this is what I'm really going to do, because right before I met him, I was going to give up. I was going to give up singing until I met him. He told me who I was.
wow. He helped you find your voice, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He helped
Wow.
solidify it. Yeah. So I mean, like he could tell if I was having my period just by hearing me sing. He could tell what was going on. He was that kind, yeah, he was that kind of guy.
So okay, so let me ask you this.
Sure.
For people like me who are a little bit more ignorant about the finer points of singing, what is the difference between, or if I'll phrase it this way, why is a lyric soprano different from all other sopranos?
I don't know. I never got to ask him. I wish I knew.
Well, does it mean that you were able to sing the aria of the Queen of the Night with ease, or does it mean
No,
that it was not
I
in
don't
your
think
range?
I don't think so. No, that's gonna take years of work.
I don't know.
But
When I was a
well,
kid watching the opera with my mom, my brothers and I would sing that all the time. But we were babies and we were baby sopranos.
oh yeah. Yeah, you could pull it off as a baby until you're not a baby anymore.
Right, exactly. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. So he helped you really find your voice, and
Yeah.
you got here, and
Hmm.
you were like, "What do I do now?"
So I thought I'd pursue musical theater. I did not. I did not quite yet. I got into the traditional Irish and Scottish music scene by way of meeting a bagpiper whose name is Andrew Forbes. He's part of it. He was at the time he was part of a duo with a drummer named Mike Morales. And they were busking at Union Square. It's traditional Scottish tunes with trip hop and jazz drums, and you can do a YouTube search and there's like a wealth of footage of them playing together, and they're amazing.
Cool.
And they became a part of my life. We became a part of each other's lives. And then and one day Andrew, the bagpiper, was like, "Oh, there's a session. You should totally come." And I hadn't even at that point I hadn't even been singing yet. And then I would go to the session at a bar called Iona on 180 Grand Street, and every Monday they'd just crank out traditional Scottish tunes until one day they were like, "Hey, do you sing?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, I do that. That's a thing. I can do that here." Because they hardly had any singers. They
Oh,
hardly
really? It
had
was
any
all
singers.
instrumental?
Yeah. Yeah, it was all tunes. It was all traditional, all traditional. There'd be a singer every now and then, but they weren't regular. Um, and then they gave me a list of songs, and then I had my own list of songs from CDs that I learned from back in the day. And then when I moved, I'm on Skillman Avenue in Queens, where I met Steve and Marilyn at the Aubergine Cafe, and I was like, "Oh, I've heard of that," and it's like literally like a block away, not even a block away, and I'm like, "There's no excuse for me to not go." So I went, and at the same time I start to realize, oh, there are other sessions in the city. There was a period of time for about maybe 3 or 4 years where I went to a session almost every night of the week.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
singing
intense.
trad or otherwise. So
That's
yeah.
that's pretty intense. I have
Yeah.
to confess that I want bagpipes played at my funeral, so I'm gonna have to, get some info from you on Andrew. I think bagpipes are some of the most glorious instrument. That and
Oh, I agree.
the
I
serious
agree.
church organ. I just have a
Yeah.
thing for those drones,
Yes.
not the ones that fly in the air and shoot missiles.
No. No, no, no. No, no, no.
But it is just something that grabs you in the gut and really it pulls you and squeezes you and
Yeah.
leaves you sort of in a very unique place. So
Yeah.
I find that quite exciting. So you said records that you listened to when you were little. Had you listened to Scottish folk music when you were younger?
Actually, so because of my evangelical upbringing, at this
Ah,
when I was so deep into it, I was about to like dive into Enya.
Enya. Oh
Yeah,
yes, I
yeah, I was
remember
about
Enya.
yeah, I was about to dive into her, but then evangelical pastors, they freak out too much. They're like, "Oh no, she's new age, she's demonic. Don't listen to her." So I was disappointed by that. And there was no Google at the time, so I did not know how to figure out that she was Irish.
To counter
So
that.
Yeah, so I had no idea. So I went into Tower Records, went into the world music section, went to a thing that said Irish, and I found a CD. I don't have it on here. I found a CD that was, it's called Hemispheres, and I think it was produced by EMI, and it had a great sampling of Irish music from the 60s folk revival. And it had every Clannad, Bothy Band, Enya, like Moy Brennan, everyone. It had
The
most of
chieftains, of course.
yeah, yeah, most of whom are alive to this day. So I drew some songs from there. Also, I would also, whenever I, back in the day when I'd buy another Irish album, I'd cross reference from the artists of that album. Oh, that name is here, that name is there. Okay, I'm gonna get that
So,
CD.
but
And
wait, but what? Why were you drawn to that music as opposed to folk music from the Philippines?
I don't know. I guess I think the way that Enya permeated our culture in the Philippines, every time I think about it, it's like her music is always used for, like, say, award shows. Like like when, when the best actress was announced, from when the best actress announced, Enya's music will be playing, and then the person would be like getting up and going on stage, and then the music would end when she'd give her speech, or a big dramatic scene in a Philippine soap opera, you would hear Enya. So, so, so there's a bit of a fascination with her, I guess, by certain
Interesting.
people who are in the media. But at the
Interesting.
same time, it's like it's also very magical. Like she really drew from a different place, even though the region that she's from itself is also very it's kind of isolated. It's also very different. So I guess there's some mysticism there for sure.
Gotcha. So, Steve and Marilyn, of course, Steve Suffit and Marilyn Suffit, who are so intimately involved with the People's Voice Cafe, um, they're amazing. They get around, they hear all kinds of things, and Steve is such a documentarian of all things musical and such an
Yeah,
encyclopedia of knowledge. Um,
yeah,
and he handles the booking for the People's Voice Cafe. And one of the things that People's Voice Cafe also stresses is some social issue, social consciousness, social awareness content in music. So, how does the music you do? I mean, tell us more about the music you do, and does any of that integrate with more of the? I don't want to call it political because we're not talking about political per se,
yeah,
but
yeah,
everything's
yeah.
political. But
Yes.
things that have to do with social issues and
Mm.
raising people's spirits as well as motivating them to take action. What sort of overlap do you have with that approach?
So in Irish music, there's a lot of rebel songs, a lot of anti-war songs. The songs that I am drawn to particularly are, I guess, immigration songs, or
Mm,
songs about leaving, or and obviously the reasons why people have to leave is because, because of the state of the economy and whatever, and their needs aren't being met and they feel stuck. Like, for example, I mean, there are a lot of songs that came out of the Irish famine. There's also a lot of, like, um, there's a song that I do in Scots Gaelic and in English. It's that talks about how how the Scots were forced to migrate, and the empire actually kind of like instigated that, and made their situation in Scotland difficult enough for them to actually like sail elsewhere. um so there is a lot of that. I have a weird relationship with Irish rebel songs, because pardon me, um not a lot of, because they're so oversung. But I think I'm aware that there is some sort of like revival and some sort of like renewed awareness into these rebel songs,
okay, wait,
because
wait, wait. I have to interrupt you. So, give me an
yeah,
example of a rebel song that's oversung because I can't pretend that I can identify with it. So, give me
Grace
one that
would
you
be,
think I
yeah,
would
like
know.
for example, Grace is technically a rebel song.
And
um
How does Grace go?
Oh, Grace, come hold me in your arms and let this moment linger. They'll take me out at dawn and I will die.
Hmm,
With
cheery.
all my love, I place this wedding ring upon your finger. There won't be time to share our love, for for we, I forget the last bit. I'm so sorry. But basically it's someone who's about to be executed because they were, they were rebelling against the British rule. And
Gotcha.
that's and yeah, and that's one of those things. It doesn't sound like it though.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It definitely doesn't.
Yeah,
Now, one of the things I
yeah.
noticed as you saying that is there's such a classical aspect to your voice. I mean, you have a beautiful vibrato and there's a beautiful tone there. Is that all the result of the work you did with that voice teacher, or was that always kind of there and he just helped bring it out in a real way?
Well, he did bring it out. I did go to musical theater school here at New York Film
Okay.
Academy. So what that solidified was breathing technique. And I just like had like, I think I went through like maybe, I want to say, half a dozen more voice teachers, each with a different philosophy and each with a different technique. And also, I'm not sure if you know about this. I was a first wave COVID hospital survivor.
Oh,
I was in hospital for a week. I came out uh, April 1st, 2020. And we're going to talk about vocal technique from COVID. So, um, what had happened was I would start to feel the itch, and then I started to lose my sense of smell. But then I regained my sense of smell, but I started to feel worse. So, but I would still sound normal. I'd carry on a conversation and sound the way and speak the way I'm speaking right now. But my lungs are struggling. So it's almost like I'm compensating and I'm coping so that people won't be too worried about how I'm sounding. Because, at the time it's scary. So I think there was a lot of vocal stamina that came out of that. Even after, even in recovery, there was some breathing techniques that came out that certain nurses have discovered and disseminated on YouTube, and I practiced that. And I felt that when um, but there are two things though that I discovered in vocal recovery during COVID. The first is the physical recovery and the psychological recovery. The physical recovery was quicker because sure I could sing, but could I sing? Could I sing past a verse and a chorus? I couldn't, because what that meant for me is, I mean, I haven't seen my friends in the sessions, and at I haven't seen my friends, and I didn't know when I was going to see them. So singing itself became so I would become emotional, like, and I couldn't even sing a whole songs, and that took 9 months.
so
So at
so
the
that feeling was in part because you were scared that they may not be alive and you didn't know it.
Something, not really. It's more like, it's like I want, it's like that was my community. I miss my community.
Right.
They're my family, and I miss them. I don't know when I'm going to see them ever again. Um so there was the physical recovery took maybe about, I'm going to say 3 months. But sure, I recovered. I was able to sing one song, and then after that, like for I just couldn't finish the song until 9 months later, when I found myself at a bonfire with a bunch of people, with other folk singers, and I was like, oh crap, everyone's singing along with me. I don't know these people. They don't know who I am. And I think at that point was 9 months since I came out of COVID. And when I went to my first session, which was 11th Street Bar between Avenue A and Avenue B, that's when I felt, oh yeah, okay, I think I'm back. And I also felt something changed. And I don't know how quite to. I haven't met any of my old voice teachers from New York Film Academy. It would be great to give to be assessed by them.
Sure, sure, I understand.
Yeah.
Has any of your life experience, both pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, um, impacted the material that you've chosen to sing or the way in which you've chosen to sing it? Not so much from a technical standpoint, but from a stylistic interpretation standpoint. Do you sing more blues now? Do you have a different feel about certain things? Has anything changed in that regard as an artist as a result of your experiences?
It depends. I sing like at Iona on Monday with a Scottish night. I sing almost the same songs over there, so I kind of like change it up using acting techniques, using a motivation, thinking about something. So I have those in my wheelhouse. There are certain songs that I do. I did develop a growl when when I'd sing certain songs, and then later on that growl would appear elsewhere. So
Okay, a
it depends. It
growl.
depends how I'm feeling. Yeah, it depends on
So
how I'm
you're
feeling.
not calling it a throaty sound, you're calling it a growl.
Yeah, I think I've heard other vocal teachers call it a growl,
Oh,
and
okay.
not a lot of vocal voice teachers are able to articulate that. But that's something I want to develop further, because it is a worthy technique worth exploring.
I love it. I love it. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, given what you've sung, given what you've experienced, do you have any thoughts on the situation with the asylum seekers here in New York City at this time?
Man, I was just having a conversation about this with one of my friends, and I resonate with what she said. And she said that it's like, number one, she said, why isn't there federal funding for these people? To why is there no federal funding? Also, why are they not why is it's a jumble. It was a very heated conversation. uh like, why can't we give them a leg up, instead of just having them wait for nothing, and it'll definitely add to the economy. It'll definitely add to the fabric of the city, and also, like, New York has like a lot more of these asylum seekers, more than, say, Chicago, by a lot. And it's also heartbreaking for the mayor to be saying that we don't have any room, which is ridiculous. There is a lot of room in New York.
No. And we also have lots of people who are homeless now.
Yeah,
So,
it's like we have the resources. It's like, what are we doing with them? You
so
know?
have you found yourself performing at any events around this issue or any groups having any? Is there anything that, again, is there overlap between the art and the world uh, for you?
I'm not so much, I confess, because I'm also trying to sort of like solidify my identity as a Filipino who's singing music from a different culture.
Hmm.
And it's like, and the thing that I'm also learning is that Ireland, as I understand it, is that they're just learning how to talk about themselves without, because of the trauma that part of the world has experienced in the last some 40, 50 years, 30
More
years
than more
maybe.
than that.
More than that, exactly. So it's like, at the same time, like, there's so much struggle with identity in the Philippines that we don't know how to talk about ourselves. Like Filipinos back home don't know how to talk about Filipinos over here. Meanwhile, the Filipinos over here are being shunned and being, dismissed by not being truly Filipino because we're here, which is a load of BS. But that's something that I'm trying to grapple with, while being aware of what's happening, in where I'm currently situated.
So
So
have, so has any of this moved you to write your own songs?
not yet, because
Not
yeah,
yet.
not yet, because it's like there's a lot of other, like, Filipino folk music hasn't been really given that much attention by Filipinos themselves. I found an ethnomusicologist who was able to break down the form of specific folk songs, and they're like, from what I understand, like maybe half a dozen kinds of just love songs in the Philippines.
Huh.
or folk songs in general, including lullabies. So it's like that, like that's something I kind of want to draw my attention to, because most Filipinos who are here, they tend to sing the same things over and over again. Um, and there are certain tropes that I think can be done away with. Um, and at the same time, like there's just a lack of awareness. Like we kind of don't. I might come under fire for this, but I'm not afraid to say it. We kind of don't know how to think about ourselves. So and then my situation as a known folk singer in New York City, it's like it adds another layer of complication for in my case, so
Sure.
to
No,
speak.
I hear you. I mean, as a black person, and I'm actually mixed, but identify, as black. Um,
Uh-huh.
Black people has taken us a long time to figure out how to talk about ourselves too, and we're still
Yeah.
figuring it out because of the colorism and the
Yeah.
classism and all the issues that have existed in our situation within America, more so than outside of America, but certainly within America. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I can understand the struggle in societies like our contemporary societies where everybody is trying to be somebody. Social
Yeah.
media and the internet has only amplified the pressure to be somebody and to know
Yeah.
yourself and to be confident in who you are. And sometimes that's not that easy to do given our heritages and our different individual backgrounds. So I hear you. I hear you loud and
Uh-huh.
clear. So if I had to unfairly pigeonhole you, I would say that you are more of a Joan Baez in terms of singing many different covers, songs by other people, which you then sort of make your own. You have the beautiful soprano voice, like she has. So I don't want to call you the Filipina Joan Baez. I'm not going to do that, but I am gonna say if people were going to categorize you compared to some of the other artists that we've had at People's Voice Cafe, um, I see you more on that end of the spectrum, on that side of the spectrum, than as the original artist who's choosing to write specific statement songs. You may be
Yes.
selecting songs because they make a statement, but
Uh-huh.
you're not writing songs because they make a statement yet.
Yes. Another person I kind of want to mention is Rhiannon Giddens. Because
Okay.
yeah, because she's also like she's had that classical training. She's immersed in her craft, and she talks extensively about the history of the banjo, and really talks about racism in white spaces, which
Right.
is which is tremendous.
Right. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you'd like to share with us that I haven't already asked you about?
Funny you should ask. So in April was the 25th year anniversary of Tartan Week, which is basically the Scottish parade, Scottish Culture Week in New York City.
Really?
It's
What day? What day? What week is that?
it's like the second week of April, I believe.
Oh, that's my birthday week. Okay, I got to
Oh,
remember that.
cool. You're an
Tartan week.
Aries. Great.
Tartan week. I'm in Aries.
Yeah. Yeah, so they decided to bring so in Scotland every October there is a singing competition. It's a Scots Gaelic singing competition, unaccompanied. It's just singing. And they have this competition every October in Scotland. And they decided that the 25th year anniversary would be a great time to actually bring that competition to New York. The competition is called the Mod. Mod is a Scots Gaelic word for gathering, but that's what they call the competition. So I competed, I sang in it, and I didn't win. there were there were about nine competitors. Like a chunk of us were from the cities. Someone was from Connecticut. Someone was from Canada, and uh, and in the course of the week, BBC Scotland also came and documented the week and the mod, and I was given special attention. I don't know what kind of angle they gave me, but then they came to Iona to film the session, film me singing. They came to my work at Symphony Space to interview me, as someone who sings traditional Scottish music. And then they went to 11th Street Bar on a Sunday to see me at a different session. So it's going to air on BBC Alba or BBC Scotland in October. I just don't have the set date yet. but it's definitely coming soon. So so that
That's really cool. You're going to have to give us the date, and we'll make sure that we send it out to in our PVC newsletters,
for
and put it on
sure.
our website that people can catch you in that. And just to be clear,
Hmm.
you easily move back and forth between Irish and Scottish. You do both,
Yes.
obviously.
Yeah.
And is there either one that you feel more comfortable with or than the other?
I don't know. It's like if the Irish have gotten the songs down. I pissed off some Irish girls at Iona saying that a lot of Irish songs come from Scotland. And they were about to like punch me in the face. And then I said, no, but you made it better. And then we became friends, I believe. But Scottish tunes have a drive to them. They have a I also I was talking to someone recently about this. It's like Scottish tunes, traditional Scottish tunes have like because of the form of it and because of specific rhythms to it, there's a swing that you can detect. Also, there's a big propensity for it to go into jazz and classical on its own. But I love both songs, both of their both cultures songs.
Cool. Very cool. Well, this
Yeah,
is definitely
yeah,
definitely unique and special, and I think we're going to have an incredible treat. And you're going to also make a quote unquote surprise little promo appearance on September 30th at People's Voice Cafe to
yeah,
give folks a taste and encourage them to come. But certainly, we hope all of your fans outside of People's Voice get turned on to the People's Voice Cafe and come as well,
yeah,
and all the people who get to see you for the first time and never heard you, because I know they're going to like it. I know they're going to like it.
yeah,
This is good. This
yeah.
is very good. Well, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the wealth of information. It sounds like you're in a position to start giving full workshops and college courses on some of this stuff, which will, hey, you laugh, but that will get
Oh,
you, that will get you around. Just talk to some of our other performers who have made a living booking themselves at various colleges performing by combining it with a workshop.
oh wow. Okay.
So you may find that you can get your travel paid for across this great land, going from school to school, talking about culture that won't necessarily stir up all the woke folk or the anti-woke folk one way or the other, because they'll just be curious. What is this Filipino doing singing Irish?
Oh, I mean, like, listen, I mean, like, you live in the Upper West Side. I work in the Upper West Side. Whenever someone asks for a manager and they see my face, oh man, I feel satisfied.
Oh, it's okay. I'm still adjusting to the fact that I see more dogs than black people in Central
I
Park every day
know.
when I go walking. So I'm adjusting to it. I'm a Brooklyn boy. I just moved here a couple of years ago. I
Oh
love
man.
Central Park. I love walking through it. But it still takes some getting used to.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Pamela. Is it Pamela or Pamela Jean? Which do you prefer?
Pamela's
Or
fine.
PJ?
Oh my God, no,
Not
no,
PJ.
because yeah, my family calls me PG, and they're coming. They happen to be visiting
Oh,
on the 7th.
oh,
So
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
That's fantastic. Oh,
yeah, yeah,
that'll be
yeah,
a pleasure. That'll be wonderful.
yeah.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you again for the time. Enjoy the rest of this week, and thank you for performing at People's Voice Cafe and for being you and doing the things that you do.
Oh, Chris, it's a pleasure.